People overestimate what they can do with a few meters, and they underestimate what they can do with 1,000. Hello, I'm Ulysses. I'm looking at games from a design perspective, trying to pick out what things I think work well and what could be better. This here is a roguelike, cooperative construction game, Unrailed, about turning trees and stone into tracks to keep your train from derailing. Why is there a train? Who's driving it? Where did it come from? Nobody knows. What I kept thinking about playing this game were hand cars, those seesaw-like, hand-driven railroad cars that you see in cartoons. One character pushing down while the other one gets lifted up, propelling the car down the tracks. This simple metaphor feels very relevant. There's an ebb and flow that slowly lulls you into complete absorption in the gameplay. The most obvious demonstration of this is the day and night cycle in the game, but the ebb and flow really accounts for the balancing of good and bad things that happen to you as you play. You're constantly building your tracks to the next station, through the next biome, and you can't see too far beyond your current point, so one strategy to combat the unknown is to cut down a whole bunch of trees into wood and mine a bunch of iron from stone, and stack them right next to the upcoming station. So later, when you leave that station, you'll have a huge buffer of resources to build the track while you're figuring out how to navigate the next area. However, sometimes your resources and tools have shifted when you leave the next station, which causes you to panic, because the cramped spaces in the game, combined with the long train, leads to you easily getting separated from your stuff and unable to build tracks. Also, stacking the resources at the station only gets you so much of an advantage, because, while you do need this wood and iron to build tracks, there are often trees and stone blocking your path, so you need to clear the path anyway, and the stacks you made, your little castles of sand, often get forgotten and left behind. But then, some of the difficulty modes will provide you with some extra tracks at each station, saving you some trouble if you didn't have a chance to stack up some extra resources. Yeah, even in this simple facet of the game, you notice the game's two faces, the good cop and the bad cop. Each biome you move through has some version of trees and stone to get wood and iron respectively, yet each has a unique challenge. You start to think that the challenge in the current biome is the worst, and sigh in relief when it's over, only to start missing that challenge because the new one is worse. The plains biome have little thieves that steal your stuff. The desert has camels that want to drink your water when it's already hard to come by. Underwater, you have to regularly go back to the train to refill your oxygen and watch out for the exploding mines. The snow has monsters, and it's hard to see where the hell you're going. Okay, I take it back. The snow is the worst. In Halloween World, or is this hell? You have to watch out for exploding enemies. Anyway, you get the picture. The challenges don't usually stack. They come and go, biome by biome, and it's nice to take a break each time until the next disaster. When do the biomes change? You decide, by buying a new engine for your train that suits the next biome. At each train station, you have the option to buy upgrades for your train, and the currency is in bolts. There's usually a bolt between each station that you have to go out of your way to pick up, and you can earn even more if you complete the challenge for each station. For example, stack resources really high, only have one player use the axe to chop the wood, use the dash ability 100 times. That adds something else you can focus on while you're building the tracks and planning out the route. That's really what the ebb and flow does for you. It keeps you in the zone with just the right tension, increasing stress followed by waves of relief. The game is, after all, time-based, where you are building tracks to extend your lifeline, little by little. It actually encourages you to live on the edge, as the train moves slowest when there are only a few tracks built in front of it. At first, building the tracks is a little awkward. Really? The train will go slow enough for me to mine resources and build tracks? I played most of the game with a friend, but I still found it just as awkward to communicate with a real person as the AI for the one-player mode, until Harmony emerged. Both styles of play actually become quite smooth, to the point where I didn't really need to communicate what I was doing with my friend, as we could both plainly see what the state of the game was at a glance. You really become one with the game. It helps that the menu and options and shops are all integrated into the world. What's perhaps more interesting than the naturally occurring balance of the world is the choices you have to make. I already alluded to the trade-off of stacking resources at each station, but another aspect you'll have to consider is when you'll need the resources. It can be hard to guess how many wood and iron you'll need to complete the level, so sometimes you'll be stacking stuff at the station and realize what's already on your train is not enough, and you'll have to start using your extra resources sooner rather than later. And bringing it over to the train takes time. Not to mention that some of the people and animals roaming around may destroy your resources if they're left unguarded. There's an art form, really, to managing the NPCs in this game, skirting their area with the tracks but keeping them from messing your shit up. For example, in the Plains biome, the little thieves will come and throw away your painfully mined resources off the map. But they will also move resources from where they were collected towards your train if you make it difficult for them to throw the resources away. So you have to think about when you want to clear the trees and stone that will let them into your area, and which trees and which stones will mitigate the risks. The camels will come drink your water, which you need to cool down the train to keep it from catching fire, but also the camels can be moved to block the thieves. Like other roguelike games, the levels in Unrailed are procedurally generated, and you have to start over if you lose. Also, like a roguelike game, there are modifiers, or perks or boons, whatever you want to call them. In this game, you can buy upgrades for your train. A radar car that gives you a mini-map, so you can better plan out your route. This is especially useful in the snow when you can't see shit. A delay car, where you can spend some time smacking it a bunch to stop the train for a bit. A bigger car to hold resources that are about to be made into tracks. Saves you the trouble of having to always move stacks of extra resources along with your train. A better crafting car to turn the wood and iron into rails faster. A bigger water tank on the train, so you don't have to provide water so often. A light car that you can feed wood to better illuminate the level when it gets dark at night. One non-obvious trade-off of adding a car to your train is the increased risk of getting trapped or separated from your stuff. A concern when planning your route is leaving space to get around the train and still have access to the resources on either side. So, a longer train means you'll have to dash around it longer each time you're bringing in wood, iron, or water. There are times in the game where your access to water disappears, but the train can still heat up, so you have to ration the water you have, and you'll want to build the tracks faster, as the train will speed up to the station once you've connected it. But completing the tracks to the next station faster also means you have little time to gather resources for the future. Yeah, the water is interesting because it takes time to bring your bucket over to the water source to fill it and bring it back, so you'll want to do that as little as possible, but if you wait too long, the train catches fire, and you can't use the cars that are on fire until you put out the flames. We actually once lost the game because of a combination of the fire and the cramped space making the train inaccessible. Both of these major themes in the game, ebb and flow and difficult trade-offs, give off this sense of duality. Two resources in the game, two parts of the game, day and night, two metal slats on each rail track, two players playing the game. No, I'm just kidding. But I think all these changes from within and without, your own decisions and the game occurrences, respectively, keep the game interesting and the players in flow. Choo-choo, all aboard. I'm leaving the video. Goodbye. Goodbye.